This is just one of the most amazing stories I've ever heard in my life, truly. I've heard a lot of stories, but this is an international story, Father Albert. And here you are, you're internationally known, you're 30 years of age, a couple years go by, you fall in love with this special woman, and you think about what this will mean, and you go ahead and you resign the Catholic Church and you get married. Now talk to us about what it was like picking up the pieces and trying to move forward.
When you say international, I don't think people realize that I got calls from India, from Germany, languages that I never spoke before, China, everywhere.
Weren't you up against like Oprah at the same time?
Yeah, I know, right.
Yeah, I mean, in
So
Spanish.
the headline was basically Padre Oprah or Padre Oprah gets married or falls in love, or they found them on a beach. I think it's so funny because I tell people all the time, and I wrote this in my memoir. I said, listen, the only thing they got right, and I'm talking about journalists and entertainment shows, is that they saw a priest with his girlfriend on the beach. Everything else was made up. Even the song we danced, our first dance, they said I did it my way. No, I did not. I love Frank Sinatra, but it was not that I did it my way. It was always and forever. It was more romantic. I don't think I can ever apologize for falling in love, because I think falling in love is the greatest blessing in the world. And it was actually one of the church people who said to me, one of the people who worked for the diocese said, Father Albert, if you're really in love and this is the woman of your dreams, I congratulate you, because there's many people in the world who don't find love.
Thank you.
So for me, moving on was really not that difficult, in the sense that I really felt I was following my heart. I'm following God's law.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example, Pastor Rich. You've never experienced this because you have your beautiful Robin you've always been with. I can tell you this. You know what it's like to officiate a wedding or several weddings every Saturday? Every weekend, Friday, Saturday, weddings. And the first lesson comes from the book of Genesis. It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make him a helpmate. And I would look around sometimes and say, how come all the guys here have girlfriends and wives, and I'm the only one here that's not allowed to have one? It was just, I got to tell you, for me, it was a blessing.
Yeah.
I always tell my wife, I have two saviors, Jesus and her,
Yeah.
because I was able to humanly experience what I think every man should have the option to experience. In my case, people will say, oh, but you did have the option. Why didn't you get married before? Or why didn't you leave before? It's not that easy. Because when you're on a path your entire life, preparing for, I'm going to live this ideal, and then God sends you this U-turn, what do you do with that? Yeah. And I've come to the conclusion, Pastor Rich, and I think you know this, God doesn't just allow U-turns. He allows us to change our lives many, many times over. So while I was embarrassed that I failed in my promise of celibacy, I was not embarrassed to say, I'm in love and I need to move on. Yeah. So I told the Archbishop, I said, listen, I'm asking for the leave of absence, we call it, but I'm informing you right now. I told him the day after the pictures were published, I hopefully will be married and hopefully will continue my ministry as a married man. And he looked at me and said, no, you can't do that. You're too popular. The whole world knows you. You're a symbol of Roman Catholicism. And I said, well, Archbishop, that may be true, but I think sometimes things change. And in my life, the circumstances have changed. He never was happy with that, but I gotta tell you honestly, I could not betray what I felt in my heart was right. Yeah. And I couldn't betray what I feel God would want every human being to have. Yeah. A wife, children, a family, while at the same time serving God. I had you as my friend. So many pastors that were all married and happily married. I have many rabbis that are friends in the Jewish tradition. All have beautiful families. And I would go to meetings, you know that. I'd go to meetings all the time with the ecumenical partners and communities stuff that we did in Miami. And I'd look around and say, okay, I'm the only guy here that doesn't have a wife. And everybody came with their wife and they were so proud of having their family. So yeah, it's different. And I value, by the way, what my brothers in the Roman Catholic priesthood do a great deal. And there's still many of them my friends and I love them. Yeah. But one priest said to me, Albert, I hate when they refer to your situation as a scandal. Yeah. And I say, why, Father? He says to me, my brother, we should build you a statue. He said, what do you mean? I said, you were the first priest that got caught, single man with a single woman, in an act of love. There was no abuse. There was no mistreatment of anyone. I said, we should build you a statue. So you see, there's different perspectives.
Oh, yeah.
Even from the most conservative to the most progressive or
Sure.
liberal, everybody has different perspectives.
Yeah.
What I saw was a great deal of love. Not just from the Episcopal bishop and the Episcopal church, from the entire body of Christ.
Yeah.
From pastors and ministers all over. Jews and Christians who said, Albert, we embrace you. Thank God for you. Thank God for your life. And I take that with me.
Dynamic.